This one is definitely can be super intimidating, especially with how to set it up, like setting up different like individual pages can be a little bit complicated. Today we're going to start off with we're going to set up a local business schema. So this is going to be a nice general one. We're going to put it in the head code. We're going to test it. It's going to be super easy. We'll just go through it each step of the way.
So what is it? Like what is schema? What are we doing?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Why do we
okay. So I did touch on this, like the theory of it when we did our advanced on page SEO. So yeah, just a quick overview of it. This actually, and I'll just quickly go over that one section for you.
I kind of remember a bit about it. It's like how you tell Google what pages you've got and stuff.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
going to be
It's a way to tell Google before they read the website what the page is about.
yeah. So the structured data, just to go do a quick recap of it. So it's a universal, so it doesn't matter which search engine it is, they all actually work together so that they wouldn't be stupid competing ones. It's all code, so it's meant for their bots to read. And the whole purpose of it is basically to simplify it down for the bots so that they know, oh, the website URL is this, like that's the URL, this is their hours of operations. And it all goes in the head tag. Also, what is really important to the knowledge panel and any sort of special anything that's not a page title meta description, almost always they use some sort of schema to generate the information that's there. There's different types. We're only going to focus on local business and maybe if there's time for another one, but mostly I just want you to dip your toes in with just the local business. That's going to be more than enough for you guys. It looks like it's super intimidating code, but if we just break it down, we know that this is going to be a script. So it means it's JavaScript. And we're just telling it that we want LD JSON. JSON is just this thing. It's just an object that carries bits of information. So this object, it opens with a curly brace, and then it's got bits of information. What's the context? So we're using schema.org. That's the website where all this comes from. What type of schema are we using? We're using the recipe. So what's the name of this recipe? It's apple pie by grandma. Who's the author? Elaine Smith. Where's there an image? And then it's got a link, and then you can tell it's an image because it ends with .jpeg. Description of it, and then it's a classic apple pie. So also, what is the ratings? And then it's what is the type? So it's an aggregate of ratings, meaning that it's lots of people's ratings all put together. It's what's its current value? 4.8. How many were there? 7,462. What's the range that it gets? And so, as you could tell, all these little bits of information make up this card here. So we know that it's a recipe. We've got the image. We've got the name. Interestingly, they did do one error. This is actually from Google. This slide here, I've copied from the documentation on schema, and they should have had a URL in here, but they didn't. So and that would point to this website on this specific page has this recipe, so that if someone were to click where it says example.com, that would actually take them to the apple pie recipe page. But basically, all these little bits of information are all generated by bits of information here. As you can see with the aggregate ratings, a really good example. It went from what's the lowest rating to what's the highest. So it made it into 5 stars. And then it said its rating value was 4.8. And then it had the total here. Does that kind of help with this, Michelle? Okay, perfect. Yeah. And so we're going to get out of this one. Oh, and also this is another really important one is bits of information for Coca-Cola's like knowledge panel. This is a really good one because it's pulling in from lots of different sources. So it's pulling in the stock price. Now that's probably generated by schema on the New York Stock Exchange. And then as it gets updated, Google can then update it in, I'm going to guess pretty close to real time here. And then they've also got it where they're pulling in information, the city, and then it connects to information about Atlanta, Georgia, right? If you clicked on this link. So different bits of information get aggregated together, so it can come from different sources as well. And another example here that we can see is these. You notice how these top stories, these are all going to be generated by Schema, because it's got the header image, it's got the name of the brand, and then it's got the title of the article, and then how recent it is. And so these are all little bits of Schema that you can implement. Helps you get into these sort of like carousels. Any sort of products is going to be super important, and we'll get into that one a little bit more, because generally, just so you guys know, if you do anything with e-commerce, you want to be setting those up as much with a plugin, because you want to dynamically change them. Whereas stuff about like a local business doesn't change that much, maybe the hours of operation, but generally the schema is going to be the same for the business. So getting out of here, what we are going to do, so the way I set this up is I copy everything off of the scheme, the Google business profile. And today we are doing Caulfield Engraving. That's the name of the business. And then I go to the info tab, because that's pretty much going to have all the information we're going to want to copy. When you go here to this schema markup generator, they're going to ask you, which one do you want to use? And in this case, you can see we've got lots of different options. And in this case, we're just going to go with local business. And already on the right-hand side, you can notice that it's already generated the script, given the context, told us what type it is, and then it has all these little form fields that we're going to answer with here. The most common one that you're going to probably find is that they are professional service. Generally, if you don't fit into a nice like real estate agent, for you guys like Michelle, you'd probably be education. Doesn't have education. That's weird. School.
Medical business, interesting.
Yeah, that is weird.
So they'd be a local business though too.
Yeah, local business, or even you guys would technically still be a professional service. You are teaching people, so that's you're professionally rendering services to someone. This one's like your generic catch-all that it's, if you don't fit into anything, you probably fit into this one. Otherwise, you're a retailer, and then that would be your type of business. We can't get more specific. Sometimes they'll let you have a little sub field. And in this case, and the reason why I like doing it from the Google My Business is you're going to copy and paste this way, because computers really like things to be exact. If you copy and paste it, even if there's a slight error, at least that it's consistent, and then you're not confusing the machines, because they will get confused. We'll visit you a little bit. Okay, so back to the markup. We got Caulfield Engraving. In this one, we're going to want the logo. So you can go in on a website. If you know the address for the logo, then you could do that. The easiest way I find is to open up the website, go where you see the logo image, right click, and copy address image as an option here. So again, super easy. You don't have to think about it. It's just a copy, and then paste. That was supposed to be copy. Oh, image address. Sorry, my bad. And so get rid of that. Oh, wonder if that'll affect it. We might need to look that up, Pip. It's an SVG. Most of the time, you're not going to have an SVG for the logo, which is a vector image. It should be fine. I don't see why it wouldn't be. And we're going to add, obviously, you could just copy the first half, and that will be their website. Their phone number, we're going to grab off of here. It's going to be the nice 250 number. Price range, you don't have to have this one open. And you don't actually, this one, the trick to it is that you use dollar signs. And it's $1 sign is you're very inexpensive this is not mandatory, this form field. It's just, which we'll see which ones are mandatory and which ones are not when we go to do the testing. So then we're going to copy the address. So in the top left-hand corner, you'll see it here. And okay. And they're in Vernon. And zip code. I'm going to use get postal code here. Country, Canada, and British Columbia. And then you could just hit this little button, and then boom, it will figure out the longitude and latitude based on the address that you gave it. And then we are going to add some hours. And so this one we can find Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So that's very easy for us to do. We'll just check these off. And then it is written in military time, 0800 to 1700. And the next one that we want to do is social profiles. So if you notice when you see what people's Google My Business and it has like their Facebook logo, YouTube at the bottom, this is how you would add that is you tell it that I think she has.
But there's no guarantees that it'll show up there, just so you know, if you do it.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah, this is just us sending signals, much like everything else in SEO. It's up to the Google gods to appreciate our gifts that we've bestowed upon them and to grant us the rankings that we're looking for. And so usually what I do for the social media is usually it's in the footer of the website. You're muted.
Or on the contact page.
Yeah, that's the next one.
Why not have
Usually-
socials?
Yeah, let's engraving. Copy the link.
There wasn't it in the knowledge panel at the bottom?
I grabbed that link, but that's only the Facebook one. I was trying to see if they showed up for anything else in here. So like Instagram, anything like that. So simple enough, we can add that. I'm probably going to take off Instagram. And then I like to add it a second time here, the URL, because if they gave you that option, you might as well use it. Now we've got all this code here. And now what we're going to do is we are going to test it. So you can use Google's, but I actually don't. This is one of the few times where I don't prefer Google's, because it's not as good as Schema's validator, which is called Google Validator or validator.schema.org, which I will also put in the chat. And so they honestly look identical. And so you can usually what you're doing is you're going to a URL to check if it works once you put it on. But in our case, what we want to do is check that the code works before we put it on the website. So you click on code snippet, you paste it in here, and then you hit run test.
Did you add the link?
No, you either put in a code snippet or you put in a URL.
No, I'm saying, did you add the link to the chat?
Oh, not yet. There you go. And so the big thing that we're paying attention to is on the right-hand side in the top right-hand corner here, we have 0 errors and 0 warnings, which is awesome for us. So that's telling us that what we've done here, there's no issues, and they're usually pretty good about telling you of whether or not you've got an issue. So now we know we've tested it. Now we know it works, and we've got 0 warnings, 0 errors. You can ignore warnings as well. They're not critical. It's the errors that you do need to fix. If it does throw an error and says, oh, you need this field, you need to do that. Otherwise it won't work. Okay. So you're inside the website. And what we want to do is, because this is the local business, so it means it's general across the entire website. We don't need to worry what page it's on. We're actually going to put it we're going to go to this plugin. This one does the header and footer. Similar, if you go back to when we did the activation and setup, this is the plugin we used at that time.
Yeah. Now, could you use another plugin if you have one? Yoast is there. Could you use that?
Yoast won't do it for this part.
And if you're not on WordPress, what do you do?
So this is going to be, you're going to put this code in the same spot. So if you're on Squarespace, you're going to put it the same place that we put your Google Tag Manager. It's all going to go into where it opened up the head code, which is in settings, advanced, code injection, and then put it in the head section, which is the first option.
And we can show you that for
Yeah,
each site.
absolutely. So in this case, I want to add a new snippet. This is going to be local business schema. And it's going to be HTML. And this one, again, I want it to be site-wide. And put it in the header. And the snippet is this. Now we're going to hit save. Yes, I'm sure I want to do this. This is just caused by a word fence, which can be fairly aggressive in letting you install code on the website. Okay. And also you could use this as a short code as well. And yeah, that one would be better for when you do individual like a person, right? And you're only going to be on that person's page. So like my page where I have information about me, I only want it on my page, the schema, because it would make sense. And so you can use a little snippet to add it there as well. And I'll show that one next as an example of an individual person. But what we want to do now, because we've actually now set this up, we want to test the website. And I don't see any, you might have to clear any caches. So if you have an application that helps speed up the website, you're going to want to clear the cache after you've added this code. But there's not one on here, it looks like. So that makes my life a little bit easier. Yes, manage. Oh, okay. So going back to the schema markup validator, in the top right hand corner, I'm going to actually do a new test. And this time I'm going to submit this URL. That really tries me up the wall.
So you go back to where to do this test?
You go back to validator.schema.org, and where we had tested it as the code snippet. And what you're testing now is a URL instead. So as you can see with this, we're going to test structured data. And before we did it in the code snippet and we posted the code itself. Now we're testing to see if it was on the page and if it worked. And so we did the home page because we've said every page this code should be there. And then when we ran it, we had a professional service and it's got the geo coordinates, hours that it's open. And once again, we have 0 errors and 0 warnings. So yeah, the hardest part, honestly, is just getting the information to put in there and having access to the head code. As long as you've got those two, it's fairly straightforward for you to do this.
And what happens if there's an error? What happens if I do get a warning or an error?
So they're very good. The first thing is not to panic. What they will do is they'll usually say, oh, where's a good one? You're just doing one the other day. Actually, you know what we'll do? We will run. I'm going to guess that if we did it in Google's rich result test and I'm going to test this URL, I just want to see if they're going to they might give us a warning and they might tell us like
Yeah,
that.
they might give us the price warning, right?
Yeah, that's what my guess is as well, that they're going to be like, oh, you're supposed to fill out the price. And it's just a warning.
Now, why do you prefer the other testing site over this one?
It's actually better quality. It's very weird to say, but yeah. So you'll notice here, we've got the little warning sign. We don't have a red symbol, so it's just yellow. We've got one warning here. We can see on the right-hand side. And then when we open it up, it says missing field, price range, parentheses, optional. And I think you can, where does that take you? Oh, it takes you to, yeah, the local business in the actual Google Search Central. You don't need to go here. This is all, it's cool. I like it, but I'm weird like that. But basically you can see that it's just telling you that we need to have something called price range and have that in there, but it's optional. So you don't have to worry about it. Very common for if you do products and if you're trying to do this, and this would be required for doing Google Merchant Center. You need to make sure test all your schema for your products. So the other one, close that one down. So what I am thinking I will do is I'm going to put it also closing this one down. So now we've done a group, like a whole website. So now what I want to do is set up one for an individual person. And how would I implement that one? The other.
So this would be done on like the about page or the team
Yeah.
page or.
Yeah, or if you have set up an actual individual team members page, I think a good one for that.
So with Michelle's website, because they have
Yeah.
a bunch of teachers that they might list on their site, you would do it for the individual pages?
Yeah, so they would have individual teachers, you would have their job title gets filled in as teacher, and they work at West Coast College of Massage. Oh,
Could you change the job title to be like RMT teacher or?
yes. So some of these ones they're very specific in what you're allowed to put in there, like the local business and how it had all those subcategory types. They will not let you put in just anything you want. It has to be one that they've listed there. Where can you find that list? I don't know. I've been racking my head over, there's some of the documentation is missing on what's available as an option. So you can run into that. But yeah,
And other times you can put in,
other times I think job title is entirely flexible from what I read. You can put whatever for the job title. They're, like I said, local business, you're only a X number of options and you're not going outside of that. So could do Michelle's, and then you would have to do the individual page. I don't know if you guys have. This would be fun actually if I could pull this off. I was going to go a different direction, but let's try this. Okay, about us, our team. Okay, so you would want these as kind of their own individual pages with their picture and everything, because you don't want to have too much of the same schema on a page. So while it's okay to have like big long page like this, if you were to you would want to break it out into individual pages if you were going to put schema on it and have it rank individually. But in this situation, the other thing we would want is
On our new
someone's-
website, each person does have their own individual page.
oh, perfect.
Pardon?
On the new website, each person does have a page.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that's great. Because it also gives you good linking opportunities to, again, how we were talking about networking all these pages together, because then they could be,
Exactly.
all of these teachers are at this campus, and then on this campus we have access to these teachers, and then you could link, and it makes like a nice network of how all these pages tie together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's definitely when you guys get the new site going, you could definitely create a bunch of these schemas and then put them on their pages. So I'm just going to do this one as an example. Let's do this. And see, you'd also want the picture URL. I think this will throw an error if we don't put that. But let's find out actually. So again, we want to test this code, see what happens. No items detected. That. Huh. That's a new one. So yeah, this is view the tested page. No rich result detected in this URL. Huh. Can't say I was expecting that. So let's see what the validator says. So top right hand corner for a new test. We're going to do a code snippet. Run that. Okay, so this one gave us 0 errors, 0 warning. So that's good for us. So it turns out an image is not required, which is good to know. You'll also notice that there is a sub object. So this object is called works for, and then it opens up an object underneath of it, and that one has a type. You work for an organization, and that organization's name is West Coast College of Massage. And so how you would implement that, I'm only going to do this for example's sake. I'm going to take it down afterwards, but say I were to go to this page and I wanted to edit the page. So, because I only want this rich snippet to show up on this page specifically. I don't think it's going to let me through the Yoast one. So what we have to do is we want to make sure that if you're in WordPress, you're in text, not visual, because you want to have the raw HTML code. And we're just going to put that there just for a second. Update. And this won't show up on the website provided that it says script and then closes it, because none of this said, hey, write out these words. It's not HTML, so it doesn't show up on the page. So don't worry about that part. And so here we've got a cache system. We want to clear that before we go test. It can be a little more complicated if you're on a Shopify or a Squarespace system. Usually they're pretty good about purging the cache as soon as you save the page. So you should see results right away. So don't worry if you don't see any button to purge the cache. They're usually, pretty good about that part. So again, we're going to test this. And again, new test. This time we're going to fetch the URL. It didn't register. Okay, that's fun. So much fun. Okay, so we've got different objects here. Okay, so it does recognize an SVG, so that's good for us. Because remember earlier with Caulfield's, we were wondering if that would register with it. It looks like it does, and it doesn't throw any errors. We have blog posts. So they've got stuff about the author. They've got stuff about the publisher, what to do with school board exams and why they matter. So we actually go to the page. Oh, that definitely. Okay, so that I want to fix right away.
Like it's pulling blog on
Oh,
our team page. That's weird.
okay. I see what happened. Okay. It looks like the host got rid there was a security plugin that erased our script. So it removed the script function because that can be dangerous. So if you're a marketer and you just randomly put a bunch of JavaScript and you don't know what's going on, bad stuff can happen. So a lot of plugins will strip it away so that it doesn't actually work. So if this were the case, this makes it more complicated to go and do the schema. Come on, open up Yoast. Yeah, it's probably done by the Genesis theme. I'm going to guess. I don't know why this isn't responding either. That's fun. So yeah, you will run into situations like this, and it may require some extra steps to resolve it. I just want to check on the page, of course. Now that it's there, now it's removed. So we're all good there. And the other thing that I wanted to check was we had the 3 blog posts, and that's being generated by these 3 here. That schema.
Oh, cool.
And probably the 4 images, because this is an iframe. So that's doesn't count as an image, but it's probably the images were this one and the header image here. So that's where that's being generated by Yoast. Yoast does a lot of that out of the gate to help with some of those. So I'm a little stumped on how I think, that I'm going to have to do a bit of more research or how to do that for your system, Michelle, but it's definitely doable. you may read online that people can do schema using Google Tag Manager, and that is not true unless you set up server side Google Tag Manager, meaning that the server renders everything onto the page, and if someone accesses the page, it's already rendered in the back end. Usually what happens is Google Tag Manager will load after the page loads and fire the script. And the problem is the bots they're not going to fire JavaScript because they're like, that's a waste of our processing power. We're just going to open up the HTML, and either you have the HTML there or you don't. And then they'll just ignore you otherwise. So that's one thing to keep in mind with the schema. Generally, you just want to paste it into the head code and you're pretty much off to the races. I did want to also forgot to.
So the types of schema you could do are for local businesses, it looks like. So if I'm a realtor, I would probably do schema for my local business. I would do schema for the realtor as well, right?
So you can go to schema.org and you can also look up different types of schema that you could possibly have. Now, as I said in the last class, that this is a site that looks like it is from 1990 and it has not changed. Like it pretty much is like a very boring website, but it has stuff like, so if I just type in real estate, it's got real estate listings, real estate agent. So that's the person versus the listing that they have. Like Pip said, local business, mortgage loan. And then, because you could have information about that, you could have information about the apartments, a rent action. So how much it would be to rent a place.
So
The
can
house
you
itself.
show us this on a Squarespace site as well?
So quick question. In general,
Yeah.
for schema, you want to do it for the entire website and then each page, or just like each person in the team?
Good question.
Yeah, that's a good question. So if you have individual team members, you only want to put that schema on their individual pages. But things like the local business, that could be on every page. If it's a really tailored part of your website, you want to be specific to that person that's on that page. It'd be this, it's like the same as like for product schema for e-commerce. You wouldn't want the red shoes and like the blue shoe schema all across the website, right? Like you want to have the red shoe has their information about theirs with the product, the image, their URL, and the price range. And then the blue shoes are going to have their own unique schema. And so both are going to be on individual pages. And the other thing is, again, it goes back to thinking about how the bots are crawling the website. When they crawl the website, they're going to understand that this website is about this whole business, but this one page is about this one person. And same for this blog post, because it's going to have its own information, and that's on this one specific page. And so, yeah, that's how I think of it. And it's, again, goes back to a hierarchy of like how all these pages all fit together and how the schema also fits as a hierarchy, because you can have situations where you're going to have the person and the person works for this business, but you can also have it. Let me show you as well, just before we jump into how to do that on Squarespace. I want to show you guys some of the weird types that you can find in here.
And this is something to get used to over time.
Oh, yeah. I'm way in deep. Like this is definitely advanced even for the schema. So do not worry about this. Just do the local business schema. Just start there. That is more than enough to get you guys started, get your feet wet, and learn about this and actually get some good results in there.
And what you can do is put schema on your site and make an annotation in your universal analytics, because you can't do it in GA4, and see if there's a bump that happens after. See if it helps you get more traffic.
Yeah,
Sorry,
exactly.
What's an annotation?
An annotation is, yeah, you're gonna so you can just leave. You can't do this in Google Analytics 4 yet. But in Universal Analytics, when you are working in there and say you make a change, we do a measure setup. Phelan, could you show an example? Who is this?
I'm extending out the date range so we can see an example one. Really? Done?
What site is it?
Okay.
David, that's weird.
Yeah, that's very weird.
2020. We probably, yeah.
No, I don't
Where-
see any on the timeline.
That's not right though.
I'm just gonna go to our website because we did it for ours, right?
Yeah.
Famous last words.
Are they?
Oh, okay. So it's really hard to see, but there's a little.
Can you go in screen a little? So inside, and there are two ways to do annotations. We did this, I think, in the Google Analytics class, but see on the right-hand side, just where it says create new annotation. So if you do that drop down arrow, and notice how Phelan is in acquisition and all traffic and then source medium. So you can do this just in acquisition. You don't have to be in source medium, but it's just that little, like a little tiny note you get to leave inside Google Analytics of, okay, we did this. So if you look at
It's really good for new website launches, because that way you have a marker, and if the traffic went up after that, you hit that marker, then good.
yeah,
Yeah, so it's in the view layer, and then you go down to personal tools and then annotations.
and then
And
you
so
can
you
just
could
leave a
add them
note.
here, delete them, make them favorites. If you want to only see the favorites, you can grab them. And that's the second way you would go and do it.
Yeah, whenever we do a measure setup, so when we set up a client with tag manager and analytics, and then we attach everything together, we leave a note. Or when we do schema, we'll leave a note inside Google Analytics so we can measure what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. So I also wanted to show you guys the different options here, because this opens up some possibilities as well, that you might have a situation like we had a situation with a client who they listed the wrong founder. So the only way we could do this is on his person schema is to find it where it says founder person, and then you would say founder and then colon, and then there was the name of his business. And so that way you're actually telling Google, oh no, this guy was the founder, not the other guy. And so, yeah,
As-
little markers like that.
It didn't change in the knowledge panel
Not yet,
too.
but it's one of those over time. And honestly, like knowledge panels don't change. They don't change as much as they say that they do. They're very slow to change.
So as you can see, all this stuff looks quite confusing. Oh,
Yeah, come on. It's
so now
super
we're in
easy.
Squarespace.
Yep. And Squarespace, and say right page. And so where you would go for the overall is going to be the settings, and then advanced here at the very bottom of the list. And then you're going to go code injection. And you've already got your setup because we did that a while ago.
So and we did
Oh,
the exact
interesting.
thing. We went to
Google My Business profile. We took down all the information as it was listed there, and then did the exact same thing we just did in the class here. And then we posted it, and then we tested it, and it works.
So let's test this page. So this is one of maybe the harder things to do. However, it is one of the best things to do when when a client comes on board and they've hired you after, so you do your audit and your strategy. And then one of the things you'll do right away when they hire you for your recurring tasks is to start to set up schema. So one of the last things you learn, one of the first things you do. And it might take a minute or two.
Oh. Okay, so we've got warning, page, Schulte. Okay, so we got the warnings, classic. Oh, that's one we want to fix. Telephone. And the other thing we want to check in this one. Okay, so there's definitely some errors that are going on here. This one looks exactly what I was expecting. It's this second one that's got some things going on because you can see the opening hours are a mess. And then this one just has straight up 2 errors, which is definitely something we want to figure out.
So and these are all different types of schema or just a local? No, local and realtor.
But they're all local businesses technically. See, type local business and then type organization. Organization is the furthest up version, an organization, and then it underneath of that is a local business. Then a local business is either like a real estate agent or some other variation on that.
So you would add 3.
No, you add the lowest one because it's the most detailed, the most accurate to you. You don't want the generalizable ones. You want the ones that are more specific. And it's just, yeah, because again, what we're trying to do is have details that show up for Google that make you unique and specific, so that when someone searches for something unique and specific like Gig Harbor Realtor, then they know, hey, this is a realtor in Gig Harbor because we verified with address realtor in Gig Harbor. So that's bits of information that helps you get for Google to understand where you fit into the scheme of things.
And now how would you fix these broken things?
That's a really good question because I was really not expecting that. Today is just one of those days. So my gut tells me that it probably someone edited the code in here because it is supposed to be on the homepage. Generally, yeah, what I would do is try to find out. There's one honest way to find it, which is you have to go into the inspect element. It's the fastest way to find it because if I do, what I'm doing is I'm trying to find, this guy. We want to find out where this code is or where this little snippet is. And so I just copied it. And then on this page, you do Control F to find, and then we're going to find it here. What the? Okay, I am very this doesn't look right. There's something else is going on here because these are 3 all back to back. And in the back end of the website, how do I open that back up again? Cancel there. In the back end of the website, we only had 1 of these. So we only had this 1. And then right after that script, there's nothing. So there's something weird going on here.
So as an SEO, what would you do?
If you're not super confident in your technical skills, what I would do is reach out to a developer if you have one. And the other thing I might do is code injection. Yeah, because it's only going to be the code injection would be the only spot. Yeah, I would ask the technical, whoever does websites, they're probably, if you told them, hey, I got this error message, I found these 3 back to back, they probably know the other person I'd reach out to. In your case with Squarespace is Squarespace support, because they're hosting everything, and just be like, hey, I see this, but I validated this. Do you know why?
But as we actually work on this site and do some of the SEO, we'll be dealing with this. So the other thing you know is that if and when you run into problems, there are people you can talk to. Us, there's forums, there's lots of articles.
And
so that's why you start with the first one, the local business. Get confident with that. And then because that does the whole site. And schema is something that you get better at over time. As you can see now, Phelan can understand errors or issues where he's gonna jump in and try to figure it out. And a lot of SEO is troubleshooting in the end, right? How do I make this better? How do I fix this? How do I optimize this page? So some of you won't do schema, right? In SEO, you can choose what you do and what you focus on. And you might be an SEO and be like, that's developer stuff. So maybe that's developer SEO. And I mean, we know SEO companies that just focus on content, right? So where we focus on content and the technical stuff, because we know that'll make it better in the long run. But there's all the other things to account for first.